have a cam talk for you. We're starting the morning prepping, leading up to the big explosion of Lisa Nichols. But here we have Arjuna Ardagh. And he's a pro. He is a speaker worldwide. He's an author. He has a New York Times bestseller. He calls himself an awakening coach because he's trained more than 1,300 coaches in 26 countries around this. He's an author of 8 books, and the national bestseller, which was in O Magazine, which is Oprah Magazine for anyone who's not from the U.S., Translucent Revolution is the name of the book. And his new book, keeping Phyllis's theme alive, is called Better Than Sex. And it's a coaching book, right? And that's totally the intro to awakening coaching. So, worldwide speaker, he's been on TV, he's been on radio, print, media in 12 countries. He lives in California with his wife. Here is Arjuna!
Good morning. So, it's going to start, I hope, yes? The counter. So, I would love to use my 15 minutes of CAM fame to remind us of 2 fundamentally important questions. I think, for me, these are the questions that really allow coaching to go beyond where the client thinks it's going to go. So I start every relationship with these questions. I start every one-on-one coaching relationship, every seminar, every coaching training starts with the deep consideration of these questions. The first fundamental question is, what is your deepest longing? What is your deepest longing? There's a temptation to want to explain that or say it in other words, but just on its own, it's a powerful question to just let percolate into our consciousness now. What is your deepest longing? I've asked that question or facilitated that question being asked in groups with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I've come to a few observations that I want to share with you about that question. The first observation is, it's not just the question, but the space from which the question is asked makes all the difference. So I'm going to do a really quick demonstration of this with Vicky. I just volunteered Vicky. So here's one way to ask the question, something like this. Hey Vicky, you're from Ventura, very nice. I've been to Ventura, yeah, there's some cool people living in Ventura. Now tell me Vicky, I'm curious to know, what is your deepest longing?
The answer?
Yeah, tell me your deepest longing, Vicky.
Grace and ease.
Grace and ease, fantastic. Isn't there a TV show called Grace and Ease? No, maybe that's Grace, Will and Grace.
Will and Grace.
Grace, great answer, Vicky. Wow, wonderful. Give a round of applause to Vicky for Grace and Ease. Now, wait. Tell me your deepest longing, Vicky. Go ahead.
Are we starting again?
Yeah, just tell me your deepest longing, would you?
Grace and ease.
Grace and ease. Let me just see if there's an app for that. Just make Grace. Okay, so that's one way to ask the question, right? Which if obviously I exaggerated it for dramatic purposes, but to ask it in a kind of high energy but slightly distracted state. Now let me ask you again. Okay. Hey, Vicky. Yeah. What's your deepest longing?
The same, grace and ease.
Mm-hmm. And what's even deeper? What's your deepest longing?
Peace.
Peace. So, quick contrast. Mm-hmm. The answers you're going to get to that question vary tremendously upon the degree of presence which we bring as a coach. We could obviously elaborate a lot more on that, but I've got 15 minutes and the clock's whirring. So let me tell you the second observation. When we work with this question, asking people to go deeper, I've noticed that longing works in layers. And very often the first answer people give you may not actually be their deepest answer. Not that it's the wrong answer, It might be, in fact, it might even be the correct answer, but it's more like the words and the feeling of it. Do you know the difference with that? Somebody could say, or you could ask, what's your deepest longing? Oneness with all things. But it's somehow, you can feel that they're just quoting Eckhart Tolle, right? Rather than really feeling the longing itself. Longing goes in layers, and what I've noticed is if you can help someone as a coach to shift from one layer of longing to another, the deeper layer will actually nourish the initial layer. You see what I mean? So here's an example. We might start with, what's your deepest longing? To have a $2 million a year income, a great house, and a Ferrari. Okay, what's your deepest longing? To make a difference, to serve people, to contribute. Now, you probably know, I'm sure you know as coaches, if you can serve someone to make a contribution, it's probably going to give them a comfortable lifestyle. Going after the lifestyle is not necessarily going to give them a sense of service. You see the point? If we can drop deeper and deeper, the deeper we go, the more energy there is, but also the more fear there is. The deeper we go, the more energy, the more emotion, the more aliveness, also the more fear. So this brings to the second observation I've had about deeper longing. Most people, this is sad to say, but most people I've worked with have given up on the things that are really deeply, deeply fundamentally important. Okay? It's kind of tragic to say that, but maybe you've had the same observation. At a certain point, the things that really have the energy become so big, so scary, we give up on them. Here's an example. I've been working recently with a woman in her early 40s. She's a very highly paid executive at one of the world's biggest technology, probably the world's biggest technology company. Begins with a G, ends with an E, with two O's in the middle. So when I started to work with her, I said, okay, tell me what. I did not sure that I used exactly the words, what's your deepest longing, but I invited her to tell me what she wanted, where she wanted to go. So her first list was, I want to write a book, I want to actually leave the corporation, I want to write a book, I want to become a speaker, I want to get a big following on Facebook, I want to step out and do my thing. It was a professional goal. I said, okay, great. I said, we can do that. That's doable, especially for you with your background, your skills. I said, close your eyes for a moment and just imagine now that you've got all that. The book's published. Just close your eyes and see the sales figures. How many has it sold? 500,000. Wonderful. Now you've got the following. Look on Facebook. How many likes? 100,000 likes. Fantastic. We went through the whole thing. I said, good. So I said, what year is it? She said, it's August 2015. So she was able to visualize. We did this not actually as a creative visualization. In the midst of this visualization, I said, good. Now, in 2015, in August, with all these things in place, now, what is your deepest longing? She said, well, I'm still single. I'd really like to have children, and I'm in my 40s. Now she got really emotional. There was a lot more energy and a lot more fear. That's an example. She had actually given up on her deepest longing. The reason that she got to be such a highly driven professional was because she had given up. She'd been hurt earlier in her life. She'd been characterized as nerdy and so on. She'd given up on what she really longed for. Now we're working on that, which has a lot more energy for her. The third observation about deepest longing, I've come to discover that everybody, not just people who characterize themselves as whatever, but everybody actually, if you go deeper, we can come to what we could call an ultimate sense of longing. You can read about it in a book and repeat the words, but it's very different from really following that longing all the way beyond all of the layers. When people do tap into it, they label it as maybe freedom, peace, a sense of ultimate connection, a sense of connection with everything. But again, we have to be careful that it's not quoted, but really arising from within. Now here is the radical, revolutionary, incredible news that I want to share with you, which is being substantiated by more and more people. It is actually possible, in fact easy, as coaches, to guide people directly into doubt-free recognition of that dimension of themselves. In fact, historically, that has happened in the context of mysticism. We've had the idea somebody has to be an enlightened guru, blah, 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 to be able to have any authority in that field. I've discovered from experimenting for decades now, it's actually easier and more effective when awakening occurs in a coaching relationship. The objection that many people have when they hear this is, well, people aren't ready for that. You can't go into a big organization and start working in that arena. I found that to be completely untrue. Go to Google Talks. You know Google Talks? They have talks at Google. My talk is there from just a few weeks ago. I went into Google, got straight to the point. Incredible amount of receptivity. There were so many people came to me saying, we want this not only personally, we want it in our organization. I've talked about this at the United Nations. I've coached people in public policy in Washington, in Hollywood, in all over the place. People are actually way more thirsty for something ultimately fulfilling if you give them the opportunity to express that longing. The difference, the important thing about this is not to come with an agenda, not to come with a teaching. That tends to create resistance in people. If you approach either an organization or an executive or somebody in a position of influence as a Buddhist or as a meditator even, or as a spiritual person, that understandably creates a feeling of this isn't, what is this? This doesn't belong to me. On the other hand, if we can find the right powerful questions, which are not about our beliefs, but curiosity about underneath your desire to maintain the company, underneath your desire to satisfy your shareholders, underneath your desire to make a big contribution, what do you long for even deeper? What is your intuition of what is possible? If we approach awakening, if we approach accessing the deepest dimension of yourself with questions rather than our own beliefs, I've observed not only that there is an incredible thirst and receptivity, but that almost, because it's the ultimate level of longing, it has the most energy, also often the greatest fear. If we can guide someone to the ultimate level of their longing, all of the layers of desire that preceded that will fall into place. In my opinion, that is the greatest service that we could perform to clients as coaches. Not just to help them get what they want, but to help them get beyond what they think they want, what they have given up on as impossible. I said I would mention two powerful questions, and here's the second one. The second powerful question, which really has to be asked in the wake of the first, is this. Would you prefer for this to be simple or complicated? Would you like fries with that? Would you prefer for this to be simple or to be complex? Now, what do you think most people are going to say? Once they've tapped into their deepest longing and you say, would you rather simple or complex? What do you think the average person will say to you? Simple, of course they do. They've just fallen in their own trap. They say, I want it to be simple. You say, great. Let me make a note of that. You want it to be simple. Then it's possible, once we've got a sense of what they really deeply long for, and their conscious choice, at least their conscious choice for simplicity, it's possible then to use the coaching relationship to re-examine the choices they're making every day. And to see, does this choice, does this action, does this habit align with your deepest longing? Does it align with your preference for simplicity? Or does it reflect an unconscious habit for unnecessary complication? That is, in a nutshell, the essence of how I work with people and how I train people. These two questions. What is your deepest longing? What is your intuition of what's beyond everything you've been preoccupied with? What is your intuition of the ultimate potential of human beings beyond which you dare to aspire for? And do you want it complex, or do you want it simple? Because I've not come here to teach you anything. I've come here to serve that longing and to serve that commitment to simplicity. I didn't think this was possible, but I'm 35, 34, 33 seconds short of my 15 minutes. Should I?
We've got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you very much. That was quite engaging for me, and I see the brilliance in it, and I realize the importance of the relationship and the fluidity of it. And I didn't see a prescription in that, as I might call it.
Yes.
And it can get tricky. And as you found, as you said, with this organization, they were very open to it.
Yeah.
So I love that, and that's what I love about coaching, is that we have a chance to, in an artistic way, be in a dynamic relationship. So, as opposed to something that is overregulated. So
yeah.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Right. Sorry, I can't see your name.
Brett.
Brett. Yeah. So yes. Brett, I actually I think it's very, very important what you've said. We do need prescriptions. Actually, we do need structure around this. And that's really what I've spent the last 25 years building with a team of other people. Mm-hmm. What we've essentially done is that there are tried and tested means of guiding somebody into spaciousness, into limitlessness, into the source of creativity. A lot of those means have been couched in traditions that have a lot of trappings that are not very desirable. For example, patriarchy, hierarchy, dogma, also beliefs that are what is the word? That are mythical beliefs. So what we've really done is taken what works, taken the systems out of those traditions and recouched them in ways that don't smell of anything ancient or even mystical. We don't even need to use the word spirituality. We can just talk about longing. Longing's a word people can relate to. So, but we do definitely need structure. We do definitely need repeatable, verifiable ways that you can sit with a client and in 15 minutes or less guide them into a doubt-free recognition of the infinite nature of consciousness. It's got to be reliable and repeatable.
Fair enough.
A doubt-free recognition, I don't know that I'll say it exactly again, but a doubt-free recognition of the dimension of yourself which is infinite. Okay? And that dimension of yourself which is infinite exists now. It's not a future state of enlightenment. I'm a great believer in weaning people off the belief in enlightenment because it's a future. It often gets projected into the future or onto somebody else. But in this moment now, right now, in this room, for you to hear these words, there has to be something hearing. And that is actually not thought or feeling or even body sensation. It's awareness. The nature of awareness for most people goes under-examined because of distraction. If we simply re-examine the nature of awareness in this moment now, which is accessible to everybody, if they can hear your question, awareness is there. When we examine the nature of awareness now, we open to a dimension of ourselves which was there all the time, but which is free.
We can do one more question.
One more, yeah.
Right here. This
okay,
lovely
yeah.
Sherry was waiting.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoyed your talk. Just wondering if any of your clients ever choose complexity and what that means.
There you go. Hell no, says the dog. Hell no.
Well, okay, it's a great question. Of course, everybody is choosing complexity unconsciously, and there are many reasons we choose complexity unconsciously. One is drama. We actually thrive on drama to a certain extent. Why do we watch soap operas? We like drama. Also, for the kind of masculine psyche in all of us, there is the hero's journey. Breaking through obstacles, long quest to get to the final mountain peak. Okay? So there are good reasons why we choose complexity. What I suggest to people, the parts of you that enjoy complexity, devote them to big issues like global peace, because that is a complex issue, or global warming, right? But you could keep your own issues relatively simple. So you can, if people do choose complexity, it's because one part of them finds that appealing, but we could dedicate that part to something more appropriate. Thank you so much.
Forgive me. We actually had one more question, and I skipped Tony. So there were 3. We can only allow 3, and Tony was waiting. So you get one more before the big
Okay.
Thank you. I'm curious to
Make it a really good one, Tony.
I'm curious to know the story of how your Irish name came to be linked to a heroic Sanskrit name.
Okay. My father was John Ardagh, and when I was exploring all of this a long time ago, I spent time in India, and there was a point where things kind of shifted for me. It's hard to exactly label that, but there was a point when it shifted from seeking to living, I suppose. And at that point, the man who was really, I think, the world's first awakening coach, his name was H.W.L. Punja, he was a retired army officer. He felt that was an appropriate moment to have a different name. Since then, I've written 8 books under that name, so I can't really get out of it now. Yeah.
All right, a big thank you for Arjuna. Thank you so much.